All right, my name is Haley Droogsma, and I'm here today sitting with Merrill McKamey of Cascade County Farm Bureau, and we're going to talk a little bit about his background in agriculture, the Farm Bureau, and kind of how he's involved in our organization. So Merrill, if you want to introduce yourself, kind of talk a little bit about what you raise, where you're at, just the state of affairs on the ranch here.
Sure, absolutely. So our family operation is called McKamey West, and I am the fourth generation to be on our ranch. We raise cattle and sheep, so our operation is somewhat unique. 2/3 of our animal units are cattle. Most of that goes to feeder cattle, feeder calves that go to feedlots. And we do sell some bred heifers and some yearling steers as well. But and then 1/3 of our animal units being sheep. Most of that goes in the form of lambs that go to the feedlot. We have a little bit of wool, and so that's primarily what our operation consists of. I have been ranching full time for 10 years.
Wow.
And I was an agricultural lender for 10 years before that, so I worked an office job. And I worked in Great Falls for the last 5 years of that, and was always, on the ranch in any spare time that I had. And we always wanted to have the opportunity to raise our kids in this environment if given that opportunity. Mm-hmm. And so it just was an opportunity that came along that we were able to help my parents and ranch full time. I was working full time and ranching, supposed to be part time, but it was ranching full time too.
Yeah.
And so it just got to be too much.
Yes.
And I really enjoyed being involved with banking. I enjoyed the customers that I got to work with. I enjoyed my coworkers, and really had a good experience living life, I guess, in the finance, agri-finance sector. I felt like I learned a lot from other people. I felt like people that were successful were always willing to share their successes.
For sure.
So I felt that was a pretty good precursor to be involved with ranch management. So I manage our family ranch now. My parents are still here. They're my neighbors.
Great.
And
awesome.
They're involved with other things, and Dad still helps out quite a bit. But then, when they want to go visit grandkids or go visit kids that are living in other states, they have that flexibility.
That's great. Yeah, the freedom's awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet. Did you go to school for financial?
Yeah, so I actually went to Bozeman my freshman year, and I thought I would be in engineering. That was kind of what was an interest. And then I actually, right after my freshman year, I was a missionary in Central America, and so I became fluent in Spanish. And when I came back, I wanted to incorporate that. Unfortunately, Bozeman didn't have the foreign language program that I needed. I was going to have to stay for an additional 4 years, so that would be 5 years of college to get a 4-year degree. And so I ended up transferring to Brigham Young University in Rexburg, Idaho, and I ended up doing an agribusiness degree at BYU, Idaho. I got a minor in Spanish and economics as well.
Wow, cool. That's awesome. Quite a background. Do you want to talk a little bit about your current involvement in Farm Bureau, kind of what you do
Sure.
for the county here and
Yeah.
state level?
So I am the county president for our county, and we have an excellent board. A little bit of background how I got involved with Farm Bureau. I guess I'm fairly new to the game, I think, compared to a lot of people. I've been involved, well, I guess now it's been 5 years. I was invited by a friend of mine to apply for REAL Montana, which stands for Resource Education and Agricultural Leadership. And when I applied for that, I recognized Farm Bureau's involvement and contribution with that program. I also got to interact with people within Farm Bureau that I felt were just excellent leaders, and the County Farm Bureau also supported me for that program to some degree, and just having Farm Bureau's involvement for me in that program kind of, I guess, made me realize just how involved they were, and so I really wanted to be a part of it. Started to get involved with the county board about 5 years ago, and then I think it was 2 years ago, they asked me if I would consider being the president, and since then we have other individuals who have joined the board as well. We have a lot of people who really established a great foundation for Cascade County, and then now we also have some additional new faces that are enthusiastic and getting involved.
That's awesome. Sweet. I saw that you guys hosted kind of a dance. Was that what was going on?
You actually
talk
drove.
about how you
I don't know
put
if you
all that together?
Did you recognize as you're driving out here there was a Smith River Hall?
Oh, yep.
Yep. So there was a community hall. Community halls in our area were kind of a community center for all these different places. There used to be a lot of rural schools and rural communities, and they didn't all necessarily have post offices, but they had certain central locations where people could come together.
For sure.
And dances were a fairly common thing. And so our community hall, Smith River Hall, was actually a general store that was moved from a ways away on the other side of Great Falls and brought there in the early 1950s.
Cool.
And so we just try to keep that, try to keep events going on through there, and we felt like that would be a great fit. Mostly we wanted to get the young farmers and ranchers around Cascade County to just have opportunities to network and be involved. I know there are a lot of young farmers and ranchers around, and people who are involved with production agriculture. I don't know how often they get to interact with each other, and so we mostly just wanted to get the word out, and
For sure.
It was well attended. I think we had over 100 people there, and it was a family event, so it wasn't just young farmers and ranchers, but it was also, kids and, older adults and whatnot. But the majority were, people in their, early 20s, or people had just graduated high school. It's going to be so important for them to have those connections, and the relationships that they develop right now will be relationships that carry with them as they go on, into their careers.
Mm-hmm. Totally. Yeah, I agree. That's definitely an important section of our population that needs kind of connection there. And just like any farmer and rancher being in a rural area, it's not always that everyone's so spread out, so it's not always that everyone gets together, but that's great. I saw photos, I saw videos, it looked awesome. It looked like a great time.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Good. Yeah. Kind of along with the local thing, are there any bigger legislative issues or anything that's impacting this area as far as agriculture is concerned?
Well, there's quite a few things. I feel like Carly and Nicole did a phenomenal job this last legislative session. There were a lot of things that they had to tackle, and a lot of things that were fairly difficult. But one thing that I felt they did really well, and it kind of represented something that came from our local area, is, at our annual meeting, there was the issue brought up that livestock loss reimbursement isn't handled, or wasn't handled, evenly across the board. There are several state-managed predators that receive reimbursement if your livestock is damaged. Mountain lions, wolves, those are both managed by the Fish, Wildlife, and Parks. Grizzly bears obviously are federally managed, and they are also included in that. And so, if you have livestock damages or losses from those three species, then you're eligible for reimbursement. Unfortunately, there was never anything for black bears, which is a major predator, especially for smaller ungulates, sheep and goats. But also we're seeing more with some of our neighbors that are calving later into June when the black bears are out. And then we're also getting a lot more pressure from grizzly bears. And so that's pushing the black bears into different areas. And also, they have certain food sources that they have to compete with. And so, they're becoming more and more a threat to livestock producers. And so from our annual meeting, we were able to basically, there was a concern raised that black bear predation could be considered for reimbursement through the Livestock Loss Board. And so that started at our county annual meeting and worked its way up through the program and made its way through the legislative channels. And, I was kind of keeping track of that, and I went and testified a few times just to give my personal experiences. But Carly and Nicole kind of kept me in the loop the whole time and did just an excellent job, just knowing where things were at and what was going on. So that was my limited experience, but I know all the different programs that, all the different issues that are coming up, they do a really good job of just handling so many issues. I mean, during the legislative session, you go through and look at the, all the updates that are going on, and there's so many things that they have to be knowledgeable in, and they do such a good job.
Yeah, I agree. They're great. They're awesome. It was great to be up there watching them do their thing in Helena this year for a little bit. Switching it up again a little bit, I'm just kind of curious what your favorite time of year here on the ranch is. Is there any favorite time, whether it's branding season?
Anytime it is green.
For sure. And
it
it's
is my favorite
out
time. And right now, you came out on a nice day, because sometimes by July 1st, it's not always green here, but it is. We've had some timely rain and some big thunder showers that have come through and provided a little bit. But I would say that's my favorite. This is my favorite time of the year. Yeah. Mostly the whole month of June and May.
For sure.
And but I've spent more time. I've come to enjoy a lot of the year, and I've kind of, even the times of the year where because we live in Montana, there's going to be extremes in temperature, and they're coming, right? Mm-hmm. And so this is what I do. So August for me used to just be, the dog days of August were just hot, and you can't drive around in the pasture. You're afraid to start fires, and you're doing projects and warm. Whatever. So I started growing corn in our garden, and I don't grow a lot, but that is one thing that corn needs heat units, and so I that's one way to, I guess, enjoy August.
For sure.
All those heat units are coming on, and they're just giving you something to look forward to. Mm-hmm. And then on the flip side, I know that there's going to be a week of sub-zero weather and pretty deep snow in our area, pretty much every year. And you could either cuss it and be mad that all your equipment's breaking down, and you're trying to feed cows and whatever. But we also have a lot of deadfall, and some of those cottonwood trees. There's really not another time of the year that's very good to get rid of all that, and so we usually pile those up into slash piles and then wait for whenever that miserable week is. Mm-hmm. And I tell you what, it's a lot of fun to go light a large bonfire.
Yeah. And warmer.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You got to warm up the area. Yep. So anyway, so I guess I like this time of the year, but we're finding ways to enjoy a lot of different times.
Lemonade out of lemons. Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Is there anything else that you would say is maybe kind of unconventional that you guys some practices that you use on the ranch at all, or?
I don't know. So being fourth generation, we do a lot of things, I guess, that are fairly traditional. I mean, that's fairly obvious. We still run sheep when a lot of people don't run sheep anymore.
That's awesome.
But that just is something that we're able to do. We have the people who are willing to do it, and we've got a great shearing crew, good lambing crew. But so that's probably kind of something that is kind of unique. But even though we do some of those traditional practices, we also employ as much technology as we can. And so, we're all on board with, using, we use, Roundup Ready crops and we use spray drones, we employ as much technology as we can. There's a lot of great advances that have happened that really have made things a lot more convenient and a lot more manageable. So I'm all about employing new technology, but I also appreciate all the things that previous generations have learned about the land and how to manage things. We don't get a lot of moisture throughout the year, and so managing range resources is just something that has kind of been passed down from one generation to another, so that things can be sustainable and you can withstand those years that are a little bit tougher and drier, which it's getting to be a little bit drier this year. So
Yeah, I agree. That's pretty important, and I think that's another cool thing about generational operations is that you've been on the same land for so long. So those previous generations have really got it down over quite a few years of being on the exact same place, so they know all the little quirks of the place that you're on, and know how to probably manage it better than anybody else. So that's cool. I appreciate that quite a bit. That's awesome.
There's a lot of resource there with the experience that's provided, and so it's just something that I think it's important that we take time and as we're doing our due diligence and researching new opportunities, we should also take a little bit of due diligence and ask those that have gone before us, what have they seen and what's their opinion, because that's extremely valuable. One thing that we do here, I guess, because I was in agricultural lending for 10 years, when we went ranching full time, we also did a insurance program called Pasture Rangeland Forage, and PRF was something that I saw as, that was our biggest risk, is if we were to go into drought, me leaving the office job and going ranching full time, we felt like, we needed something to mitigate the risk of, having to adjust for a decreased hay crop or, having to run fewer animal units or something like that, or, prices reacting to drought conditions. So we bought a PRF policy 10 years ago when we went ranching full time, and we had a great experience with that program. And I would constantly kind of question, how come a lot of people aren't as familiar with this, or how come this is something that isn't, really out there where people are, getting out and explaining how to utilize this program. Instead, I was always seeing a lot of advertisements coming in from people out of state or whatever, and I felt like our insurance agent did a really good job of it. He had an agricultural background, but I always felt like PRF was something that was a little bit underserved, and so I decided I would just go ahead and get licensed to sell crop insurance, and that I would just specialize in PRF, feeling that I had a pretty good understanding with my own experience for the last 10 years. And through those last 10 years, I was able to make some adjustments and, just understand things a little bit better when I was given, better data. And so I feel like that's probably another area that is probably a little bit unique, because I also do that in addition to ranching. It's not something I have to do. It's more something that I feel like I have a knowledge, and I can help others that are, considering the program, or maybe they've done the program and they feel like they haven't had a good experience, and it might be because they were just set up incorrectly, because hopefully, somebody else can have the same experience that we've had.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. There's lots of financial tricks of the trade that aren't necessarily totally clear at surface level. So I think that's pretty sweet that you guys got something worked out well there.
Yeah,
That's
it
awesome.
really was a good program, and I felt like, boy, that I felt like other ranchers would probably like to know about it. If it worked that way for us, it could work that way for them.
Yeah, that's awesome. Are your kids in 4-H and FFA at all, or?
They are. So
Yeah.
2 of my kids, Ian just graduated, and Claire was a sophomore this last year. They were on the Cascade Parley Pro team, and they took 3rd at state.
Oh, fun.
And
That's awesome.
they've been involved with a lot of different things. Lane is an 8th grader going to be a freshman next year, and so he's been involved with some of the junior FFA programs. And then we have a daughter that's in 6th grade. Of course, she's in 4-H, and the other ones are also in 4-H. They have 4-H projects. The 3 oldest, Ian, Claire, and Lane, all have steers that they're going to be showing at the Cascade County show next week.
Awesome.
They just
That's
weighed them,
exciting.
and those steers, they're all really similar. They're right at about 1,400 pounds. They look pretty good, so they've done a good job. They've gotten up. They go out every morning and they separate them. They all have halters. They separate them in different, places to feed, and so they've had a lot of dedication to do that day in and day out. And then Natalie has a pig that she's done, and so they'll be showing those at the 4-H show next week.
Sweet. Those are fun years.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to talk about? Anything that you're passionate about sharing?
I think what we need to do with Farm Bureau is make sure that people know what we do. I feel like when people say Farm Bureau, oh, tell me about that, or Farm Bureau is like the insurance, I feel
Yeah.
like there's a lot of people, even in production agriculture, that don't understand. I know I was one that didn't understand as well. And I think just come up with a quick answer, things that you enjoy about Farm Bureau. For me, I really enjoy that we have just the greatest resources for, anything that would be local to national policy and everything in between. We have a organization that has credibility and has a lot of history, and I'm passionate about advocating for agriculture. And so my big thing is, I want people to know about production agriculture. I want others to be educated and informed about what we do. I don't feel so threatened that people in general, I don't feel are pessimistic about agriculture. I think they trust farmers much more than they trust so many other industries.
I agree.
And so it's not that they're necessarily skeptical, it's that they just want to understand. And so I think that's really important. Otherwise, suddenly you get public policy out there that is derived from misinformation. And so it's our responsibility to provide the correct information to others. And so, every year we do Ag Days. That's put on by the Cascade County Conservation District. We do a branding demonstration so that there's like 800 4th graders that come through. They're all the 4th graders across Great Falls. And
That's
they
sweet.
they love it. They just love handling a little branding iron and making their own brand. Paul Johnson is on our board. He's a retired brand inspector. And, he has the opportunity sometimes to talk to him about what the purpose of branding is. And I don't know how much of that information is retained, but maybe some point later on in life when somebody is, saying something negative about the cattle industry and branding in general, maybe they can reflect back and say, actually, there is a purpose for that, and this is why. And maybe at least be informed.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that is our responsibility. If we are disappointed with misinformation that's out there with production agriculture, then it's our responsibility to get out there and provide the correct information. And then not only get out there, but also bring people into your space. Like I said, a lot of people don't see us as, as evil. I think for the most part, they just want to understand. And I have been amazed at how open-minded people are when they come out to our operation. Not everything is so pretty. There are times of the year when, you're going to see animals suffering because of, maybe, during lambing or calving, you just have natural death loss. And it's unfortunate, but they also see us putting in our very best effort and putting our best foot forward to try to be stewards of that livestock and help them along. And even given your best efforts, you're still going to experience that failure. And, when they experience that or they see that themselves, their perspective about you as a livestock producer changes dramatically. So it's a little scary to bring people into your space. You don't know, how, because they're pretty uncomfortable sometimes when they're first getting involved. But by the end of the day, people have a whole new perspective and a whole new respect for what you're doing, and there just is a mutual understanding that wouldn't be experienced any other way.
Yeah, I agree. And just in the sense that they're doing the best with the information that they have, it's very, I think, insightful for them to come onto farms and ranches firsthand and see how we do the best with what we have, as far as, like you said, like during calving and lambing seasons, those can be really challenging times. And I think they also get to see firsthand in those, especially in those scenarios where it's so like you said, not common, but it's a little more standard to have natural deaths at those time of years, so they can just see how much you're putting into your livestock, how much you care about the animals and their well-being and all that. And yeah, I think that's super productive conversations to have, productive for people to be on farmer ranch. And a lot of people, I mean, it's impressive, I think, in Montana how expansive people have gotten with the agritourism side of that whole thing, and how they can welcome people onto their operations in that way. So I think that's also really cool, and there's just lots of opportunity there to tell our story in so many different ways. But yeah,
there are some people who are able to capitalize on that, which is great. We've been, I guess we've never really capitalized on the tourism part, but just taking time to bring, it actually started a couple of years ago. We had a friend that would bring people from Malmstrom Air Force Base, and these were people from all over.
Oh yeah.
And they would usually have young kids, and they'd love to come and see the young livestock. And at first he would call and he would say, this is the day that we're thinking about coming, can we come out? And of course, we'd make arrangements and be ready for him. But, we'd end up with like 2 or 3 families with a couple of young kids. And, it was a little bit of additional workload, but, it was something that, I developed good friendships from.
Yeah. Totally worth it for the connection side of that, I would say. Yeah. That's awesome. Sweet. Do you have any advice for anyone who's looking to get involved in Farm Bureau?
Don't hesitate. When I talk to people about Farm Bureau, I'm pretty excited about it, and they get pretty excited about it. And then it seems like sometimes people just get busy with life. And there are opportunities out there, and there's never going to be a convenient time. You just got to make it happen. And even if it's a little bit of time that you can put in, it's always time well spent. I'm not always at every function the whole time, but I try to make them as often as I can, and I never regret making the time for that.
Yeah, yep, that's awesome. I think we're probably about ready to wrap up. If there's any last words, any final thoughts that you have to share with
I
everybody.
don't have anything. Thank you for coming out. We
Yeah,
appreciate
of course.
that.
I appreciate you having me. This is awesome. Being out here on the ranch, getting to see everything. This is sweet. Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Merrill.
Yeah, you're welcome anytime.